Narcotics Control Commission Act clearly is an improvement and an update on the PNC Law 236, which was promulgated in 1990. And drug policy, research, as well as scientific evidence that have come up since 1990 have clearly brought to the fore the need to center drug laws in human rights and public health. So, for example, the scientific evidence that addiction is a neurobiological phenomenon has led to politically correct language. Instead of using the stigmatizing word addiction, now even in the Act itself, it is about, I think, Section 3I is about substance use disorders. And one of the objects of the Commission is to ensure that substance use disorders are treated as a public health issue. But the objects of the Commission, 2A, 1 says that the Commission shall ensure that drug use, it's a public safety, first public health, as well, and then secondly a public safety issue. So prior to this, our laws were situated in the paradigm of prohibitionism. You know, war on drugs, war on drugs. But this thing has failed, or is failing. It is very important to stress that it is the high-profile drug trafficking networks that are more criminal. It is not the low-level use guys. I mean, people who use drugs, I think, without killing, without fighting. Non-violent crime is non-violent crime. They need help. It's a public health issue. They need help. And if they need help, it is a human rights issue. You don't imprison somebody who has malaria because he went to sleep, he didn't sleep under mosquito net. He's putting pressure on the, public health system, and therefore imprison him to teach him sense. Substance use disorders are like malaria. It's a normal disease, you know. So that for me is very, very critical. And there are other areas of the law, alternative development. When people are planting these things illegally and when they have been caught in the web of illegal production, there are people who give them money to farm for them. You know, so you need to divert them. Those guys, they have become hooked up to that network where they are funded all the time. So give them an alternative. Let's see whether we can move them away from illicit cropping. Illicit cropping to licit cropping, where you give them space to plant it in, you know, that section. We had a section in the old act, I mean the new law, I think section 23, but it has been questioned in the Apex Court, and I think July last year there was a ruling against it, so that it was unconstitutional. And I think the state has filed for a review. So we are still waiting for that review. Yeah.
So, sir, from the point of view of using drug as a public safety or
public health, yeah.
Issue, is it something that maybe I will feel one day if someone wants to freely use, say, weed, he needs a pass to say publicly he could do it without being arrested by the police.
No, you see, the point is that even smoking cigarettes outside publicly harms other people. So for me, open smoking is not the best. But if you ask me whether you should, if you ask me candidly, and all the so-called moral saints, who champion this thing, they should tell me. I'll give them 3 options. And the options are tobacco, alcohol, and weed. Which is more dangerous? They should answer me. Weed is less dangerous than tobacco, and tobacco is less dangerous than alcohol. Or maybe they're on the same level. And if people die out of tobacco and alcohol more than weed, then why are people demonizing weed? I'm not saying it is correct, but if we are banning it, then let's ban all the 3. That's the point I'm making. But you cannot say that people have a right to drink alcohol and to smoke in their homes, but they don't have a right. Why are you intervening with somebody's personal life? If you want to smoke it, fine, but not outside, not publicly, because that harms other people. And that not only harms other people's health, but it may also lead to small children learning from adults. But that's the point. That's the point we are making. All that we are making. We are not saying that it is right. That's all we are saying is that let's prioritize and do the correct things. If we prioritize and do the correct things in the right way, fine.
So are you saying with this new narcotic law, something of this nature will take place?
No, but in fact, in the new narcotic law, you have to read it. You have to read. I mean, in the course of the engagements, we'll talk about it. In the interpretation section, there's a place for possession, for use, and possession is having a quantity under your control, which you can necessarily use for one day. It's in the law. So it does make room. I mean, it's a major improvement. They didn't give quantities, which is, but it's a major improvement. So that if you see somebody smoking weed in his house, and you go and tell a policeman, the policeman busts into the house and says, "I've arrested you," that is completely. I mean, it is somebody's personal. It's like he drinking whiskey in his house, and then you going to arrest the guy. I'm not encouraging people to do that. It can be addictive. It can lead to substance use disorder. But for goodness sake, let us differentiate between private lives and public safety.
So I mean the approach that has been used in fighting drugs in this country. How many drug people? I mean, the big time have been arrested in Ghana. You are journalists. I want you to investigate the thing yourself. And do the database so that you will be educated. Sorry, you'll be educating the public and say that in 2023, 100 big shots were arrested. This is what we saved. 5,000 small smokers who were not using violence were arrested. And this is how much the state, when they are arrested, do you know how much it takes a day to feed them? Even if it's minimum, even if it's 1 cedi, it means 5,000 a day, thereabout. I'm not saying that is what it is, but there was a time when you have about let's say we have 5,000, even 3,000 prisoners, even 1,000 prisoners. It means the state is spending 1,000 cedis on them in a day. That is if it is, and if it is for a year, what does that be? 365,000. If it's for 2 years, you are going to 1 million. Could that thing not be used for something else?